right, what's up, Ringside Nation? The Ring Boys are back. Down one on the night per usual with my beautiful co-host, Doc. Doc, how we feeling, buddy?
We're doing good. How you doing?
Doing good until we look at the sheet and look at our predictions. And oh my God, man, this card, I'll tell you, I'm glad it wasn't an Apex card. Got a potential free night stay. Almost went to this one. I'm glad I didn't. We'll break it down for you. But yeah, I even came home and fell asleep. Rewatch the fights, and Atlantic City. We're gonna have to be here at a couple more events. So I heard the arena was pretty loud. Like there was a lot of energy. So I think the gate was the gate was like 2.5 million or something, 12,000 people. It looked like a small venue though. Did it look small to you?
I don't know. It looked packed, so small or not. I mean, they filled the seats. And I wonder, there was that one fight that I really want to see that got moved to another card. So I wonder if people bought tickets early, expecting like a better fight card, and then just a few fights got moved, and we got this gem of a card. I will say, I started off pretty hot, and I was gonna message the group, and I'm glad I didn't, because the main card I was not good.
It's the unspoken rule. Like whenever you can't even think of it. Like it's like an MLB. It's like an MLB pitcher pitching a no hitter. It's like the second someone says it or thinks about it, it's gone. It's just gone. Nonetheless, we'll get right into it. Starting with your main event, Aaron Blanchfield. I don't know why it says Eric. Is it? Why does it say Eric? Anyways, typo on arm pat. Doesn't matter. We're forgetting her name for this one because Fiorot just absolutely dominated her. Blanchfield was talking a big game before this one, saying, if I get this win, I think it really solidifies my resume for a title shot. And Fiorot walks in and goes, did you forget about me? And re-enters the conversation. So yeah, I think this was a big miss from all of us. I'm glad I wasn't the only one who thought Blanchfield was going to walk through her. But yeah, Doc, what are your thoughts on the main event?
Yeah, I'd say I didn't think that she was going to walk through her. But actually in the first round, I believe Blanchfield was really, really close to getting a guillotine on Fiorot. And one of the things that made me think Blanchfield's going to win is that Fiorot said ahead of time that she was going to out-grapple Blanchfield. And I was thinking, no way. And, she looked really good on her takedown defense. Blanchfield only had that moment in that first round where she had a guillotine locked up, but Fiorot fought out of it. And then honestly, it's possible that she could have out-grappled her. Later in the later rounds, Blanchfield looked tired, and Fiorot's striking was perfection. And that's what Fiorot is known for, at least for me. And she really showed a world-class level here. And I think her last fight, it was against Rose Namajunas. Yeah, it was. And during that fight, she also did great, and she pieced up Rose. So she's a complete fighter. For both of these fighters, I thought that this was the contender fight for flyweight. So get them a shot at the championship. Fiorot looks really, really good. Really, really good. So the French are probably more excited about her than Cyril Gane, who keeps on ducking everyone. But they might get a champion out of her. She's very solid and young.
Yeah, and that reinstates the conversation of obviously, Grasso, Shevchenko are going to be the Ultimate Fighter coaches. So how long are we going to wait, till we get that fight? So we'll have to wait and see. It's an interesting division right now at the top, at least. Speaking the bottom, I mean, there's a ton of up and comers that are very, very exciting. A lot of movement at the bottom now with Rose coming into 7th, but yeah, the women's flyweight division now raises an eyebrow and a question of, where do we go from here?
Yeah, interestingly, I think they said before the fight started, this is the first fight ever in women's UFC history to have two fighters with a 6 or more win streak going into the fight. And both have been looking so solid in this run up to this fight. But Fiorot took all 5 rounds easily. I guess maybe not easily. That first round, she was really close to getting choked out. But other than that, Fiorot, flawless performance, and she looks scary.
Flawless on her behalf, defeated on her behalf, starting off 0-1 on the picks. And yeah, Atlantic City, not too kind to us to start, but Artie gets back and predicts Joaquin Buckley defeating Vincente Luque. I I thought Vincente was going to be a lot more technical on the feet. Buckley was going to obviously go for power. I mean, if you kept an eye close to social media, you would see like Buckley was partying at like some pool the night before the fight. And it was just like, oh boy, what is he doing? But sometimes you just got to have fun with it. Just go and do what you know. And the rest will follow. I think a clear mind was definitely there for Buckley. He was definitely not his normal self. Normally the more of the aggressive type, if you watch his other fights. I think he still obviously has the greatest knockout, in my opinion, of UFC in all time with that spinning like heel kick when his foot got caught. And yeah, that was the fighter we kind of got to see. Sucks that didn't pick him. I was in between him. I'm not gonna lie, I actually flipped a coin here. And yeah, when heads when it should have went tails. But it's just how the way she goes. Doc, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was super impressed by Joaquin Buckley, and you're right. Everybody knows him because of that Impa Kansangya or something like that, his last name, knockout. Beautiful highlight reel knockout. That guy ended up leaving the UFC, going on to Bellator or PFL, and he was fighting for the title. I think he lost, but he was clearly a really good fighter as well, and Buckley did that highlight reel to him. The best thing that Buckley did was move down in weight from middleweight to welterweight, because he looks super powerful here. And even at the beginning of his career, he was super fast. His striking was precise, but clearly there was a speed advantage here. And the reason I picked Luque is because Luque has quite the chin, and I thought that it would let him get close to Buckley and kind of show off his own power, maybe get a sub out of it. But Buckley seemed to have scared Luque. As other people have pointed out, he will be a problem in this division. He looked great, and he seems so committed. And the last thing I'll say is that before the fight, Buckley said he wants the world to know that he's not just this one-time highlight reel knockout artist, that he's a complete fighter. And this was the best performance that he's put on. I'm excited to see him back in there. Luque is kind of a gatekeeper, but he's a really good gatekeeper. Buckley, biggest win of his career. He's going to keep on moving up the ladder. And as long as he's motivated, he has a chance to be in title contention eventually.
Couldn't agree with you more. Hopefully we see some knockouts from him on the way. I wouldn't mind another crazy kick coming out of the boy. Nonetheless, obviously have to talk about Bruno Silva losing to Chris Weidman via decision. It was now ruled by the commission, but Chris Weidman, normally, obviously a very well experienced fighter and has been in the game for quite a minute, but one eye poke, okay, I get it. Two, and then two in a row. God, I mean, what are you doing, dude? Chris Weidman pokes Bruno Silva not once but twice, and I get what he was trying to say at the end of the fight in the press conference, saying, yeah, like if I poke you in the eye, you can't just like flop like a soccer player and go down to the mat. We're MMA fighters, but it's like you also can't reach out with an open hand twice. So I don't know. You can play devil's advocate for both sides, but Bruno Silva doesn't get the win here. Another big miss from your ring boys. And yeah, I wouldn't rule it a dirty fight. I don't know how you think about it. I think the first one wasn't intentional, but when I saw the second eye poke, I'm like, all right, dude, like you gotta adjust from that point. So Doc, give us your thoughts and feelings on this one.
Yeah, I think that Weidman was winning this fight regardless of the eye pokes, but it was super frustrating, and I got a bit frustrated with him during that post-fight interview where maybe I agree that Bruno Silva shouldn't have made such a big scene out of it, and it made the referee question if it's an eye poke, if it's like a punch to the orbital bone. Both fighters had their eye looking really bad, swollen shut. But Chris Weidman's a veteran. He knows not to poke people in the eye. So although he looked great, this is going to put a damper on this win, because he was going to win the fight regardless. It didn't seem like Bruno Silva had an answer. Weidman looked strong. He looked fast. Those legs looked fine. He wasn't scared of throwing the kick this time around. But I also heard that Bruno Silva is going to be appealing this. And I think he has a very valid point here. Although he would have lost the fight, he wouldn't have been knocked out. And those eye pokes completely changed the way that the fight was going towards the end. So I feel really bad for Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva, as the commentators mentioned, he fought Alex Pereira early on in his UFC career, and that fight was very, very close. But Bruno Silva, unfortunately, has kind of lost it at this point. So I think that his career is nearing its end in the UFC, at least.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
Oh, Weidman looked great. I mean, he's an old man, and I thought that he should have retired after the last fight, but he looked like he could potentially compete. But he has to keep those hands closed.
Yeah, he does. I think we'll definitely get one, maybe two more fights out of him. I don't know if they'll be wins or losses. We'll have to see who he actually fights, but didn't sound like he wanted to slow down anytime soon. So just have to wait and see. Cedricus Dumas, outside the ring issues, getting arrested, Instagram living his whole arrest. And we didn't know if he was going to fight this year, question mark, or soon. And saw his name on this one. Surprised and glad he made the fight. Not surprised that he lost, however. Nursultan Ruzboyev getting the job done. I know, Doc, this was your lock of the card. I'll give you your Woody Page moment here, and I'll let you take the reins.
Yeah, this was my lock of the card. Ruzboyev, he's a vet. He's not a UFC vet, but he's a vet in general. And he's very solid, very powerful, decent grappling. I'm glad that I finally got another lock of the card win. It's been a while. I'm getting scared picking my locks, but he looked good. But even this fight, same thing. Eye poke. Ref doesn't stop it. And then Ruzboyev keeps pursuing his prey, gets a nice uppercut, showed off his power, and knocks out Dumas. So, I believe Artie said a few, maybe 5 episodes back, that the issue with eye pokes is because the gloves that the UFC uses puts their fingers in a position where it's bound to make eye pokes. And Justin Gaethje apparently has his own wrestling glove company, UFC glove company, that kind of tucks the fingers and makes eye pokes less likely. And I know that Gaethje did go on Twitter talking about how the gloves are part of the issue. But again, the thing that holds the UFC back from switching gloves, I think, is how does that affect the wrestling? If you can't extend your fingers, how are you able to wrestle these people? So I don't have enough insight on that, but I think that that's part of the reason why the UFC is still using these gloves, even though there's been tons of eye pokes this year, including eye pokes that have led to people just in dominant positions winning. The opponent gets eye poked and they take the easy way out and leave. So it's a problem, but I do think Ruzboyev would have still won regardless.
Agreed. Shout out Cedricus Dumas, staying out of jail. Free my boy if he did nothing wrong. That's all I got to say first and foremost as he takes this loss. I'm so glad you brought up Justin Gaethje, because that was going to be my fallback point. Because I don't know if you paid attention to his Twitter on the end of the fight, but he actually tweeted and said, "Too bad the UFC doesn't want to change these horrible gloves." And just responded to a couple people, said it wasn't their idea to use the Whitman's gloves. I think that's what they're called, his brand of style of gloves. And then he also tweeted back to someone else and said, "Listen, it doesn't have to be our gloves," meaning his branded gloves. It just has to be better gloves. These gloves force you into a bad position when your hand is relaxed. They cut the circulation off to the fingers. They put so much pressure on the hand between the fingers, blah, 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 blah. But this is Justin Gaethje, a well-established fighter who's been in the game for a while, saying this and trying to bring this forth to the committee. And it's this is probably going to be a weird take, but I feel like they need to do more democratic style of changes to the game and letting the fighters kind of take the reins, in the sense of the same way that the NBA assigns a president. I don't know if it's still Chris Paul or whatever, but they have one person that says, all right, pull the fighters together, get us the details, come to us formally with what you want, and we'll try to meet you in the middle. And it's if we could sanction something like that, I feel like we'd be able to make better off decisions, from weight cuts and the scales to the gloves to whatever. Maybe we'll
firing Chris Taglioni for almost killing fighters. Getting
Chris Taglioni a power slap max contract so he never has to fight or ref an MMA fight ever again. And yeah, I'll bring that up into the segue and talk about weight cutting because my girl Victoria Dudakova, who's my lock of the card, is not making it to the show. Are you good at the Rozboyev fight? You all set? You got everything on squeak? Perfect. Because I'm gonna spend a hot minute on my girl here. Oh man, I think it was. I actually came to visit you in October, back 294, the Dagestani Gucci flip flop parlay. Shout out Khamzat Chimaev, which we'll talk about as well. Finally, you get some Khamzat news. You know, it's not a podcast if I can't talk about Khamzat Chimaev. But Dudakova passes out at the weight cut, has staph infection, still fights and ends up winning at 294. And it made me wonder, like, okay, like that was a lot. We probably shouldn't fight for quite some time. And if we come to fight for quite some time, we got to have a healthy weight cut. We got to be in a good state of mind. And we got to be ready to go. And when I saw the card, when I was making the sheet with Artie, I texted him. I was like, dude, why is Dudakova the underdog? Like, do they know something we don't? Like, no all praise to Melissa Gatto. Like, she's a really good fighter. Don't get me wrong. But Dudakova is nasty. So when I saw that, I was kind of just confused. And Artie texted me behind the scenes, also maybe in our group chat. He said, maybe you're right. Maybe there was something with the weight cut because clearly she posts on Instagram apologizing to everyone and Melissa Gatto and saying, you know, she felt great in the morning after a workout. Then she started not feeling great, couldn't eat all day, thought she'd felt better. She got to the arena and she was just nauseous and dizzy. And the doctors were like, here, take this pill. And she was like, I don't feel any better. And they're like, all right, you're not doing this. So I don't know. This goes back to my big theme of like UFC fighters that like, if you're coming in the ring, you better be ready to go. And not to bring up BSD, you know, in his whatever antibiotic situation, but it's like you walk in the ring, you better be ready to go. And I'm glad she didn't because there's a clear problem here. I hope to see her bounce back sooner than later. But it makes you wonder, like, she's really trying to make her name in the flyweight division. But if this weight cut is too much, like, do you pivot? Do you position? What are your thoughts, Doc?
Yeah, I think that this sickness has to do with the weight cut, seeing as she's had weight cut issues in the past. Props to her for making weight this time, but I think it took a toll on her, which is why she ended up not fighting. Everybody wants to go down to lighter weight, especially if you've been at a higher weight, you can carry the power over to the lighter weight, similar to what Joaquin Buckley did. But if you can't make this weight, unfortunately, I think she might just need to put on some mass and go up a division and stop trying to make weight. Because if she can't fight during these fights, then what's the point? And it's really unfortunate because she's probably super close to getting to this weight without getting sick. But we need her fighting, and we need her trying to get 100% of the purse instead of getting penalized. And as we talked about a few episodes back, I expect this fine to go up for missed weight. Yet again, Julio Arce, whatever. He missed weight. He won the fight. And this keeps on showing up in this past year where you miss weight, you get penalized a bit, but you win the fight. So if they penalize a bit more, people might try to switch weight classes, cut better. But Dudakova, this is 2 in a row. The weight cut is causing a problem, and Dana doesn't like that.
And it makes you just wonder, like, what's going to happen when she finally breaks into like the ranked fighters aspect who are going through these weight cuts and are the same age and have similar routines and are fighting more often periodically than her. Like, if you were to tell me, I know Casey O'Neill is probably a bad example, but I don't know, toss her like an Ariane Lipski. If they scheduled Ariane Lipski and Dudakova, I'm betting on Lipski. Like, it's just too risky at this point. Until Dudakova comes and shows me something of value again, I think I'm selling her stock. It pains me because she's part of like a memorial historic event in the Ring Boys Hall of Fame Dagestani Gucci football parlay, which we'll talk about forever. Like, our kids are going to know about that parlay, Doc. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, if I'm Dana, I'm talking to Dudakova and being like, hey, I might stop scheduling you at this weight. because it's not working out, and she's losing him money. I mean, I get it that people didn't come to watch this fight card only for her, but we were pretty excited for this fight. So
100%.
So it's really unfortunate, and I hope she gets better. But I think she needs to take a lot more time off. I don't think they need to throw her in the few weeks, even if she said that she felt good the day before. You need to get in the ring. So hope Gato gets something out of this.
And this goes back to my original thought of like the bantamweight division looking pretty boring. If we threw Dudakova at the bottom of the rankings, I think we'd be better off. But yeah. What do I know? I'm just a UFC fan. Nonetheless, that's essentially everything we wanted to talk about this card. Obviously, you can see our picks. We get to cover everything. No, it's a fight night. It's not a pay-per-view. We're not going to go into details. What are you, a cop? You know what I mean? And as I mentioned before, it wouldn't be a podcast if I, one, didn't mention Khamzat Chimaev, and now, two, I can actually talk about a fight that's scheduled for Khamzat Chimaev. It's even better. Not a surprise, not a shock anymore. Khamzat Chimaev will fight Robert Whitaker, Bobby Knuckles, June 22nd in Saudi Arabia. And I think as of now, that's fight of the year candidate for me. Did see pictures of Khamzat Chimaev looking pretty thick, I'll say the least. I don't know if he's intentionally training like this. It does make me concerned. I did see the lines open up. Khamzat is the favorite. I thought it would have been the other way around. But my immediate thoughts, and you're gonna pinch yourself and think you're dreaming that I'm saying this. I actually think, as of now, I probably would lean towards Robert Whitaker winning that fight, even though how big of a Khamzat fanboy I am. I don't know. It's obviously, a few months away. We'll have to wait and see. And, Whitaker just took care of Paulo Costa, and he looked really good. He almost got clobbered by that kick. But, yeah, it's long overdue. It's no shock Khamzat fighting in Saudi Arabia. Hard to bet against. So, Doc, what are your thoughts on this bout being made finally?
I mean, I think it's going to be a good fight, but fight of the year? I mean, do you know what's happening at UFC 300? Yeah, Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje? Come on. Fair. On paper,
I'm trying to sell this one because it's not a pay-per-view, so I'm trying to
Yeah, so I think it's a great fight. I think it's going to be so tough for Robert Whitaker. And we've seen Khamzat at this weight class fight Usman, but it's not Usman's weight class. So we'll see if he can handle somebody that's a natural 185er. In Robert Whitaker, who was the former champ, has always been a top contender. But if he gets taken down, I mean, what can you do? And Chimaev has taken down everybody pretty easily. So yeah, I don't know. I think it will be a good fight. I think Whitaker has a lot to practice before the fight happens. I really wish that they would have a rule no taking people down. I think that it would be super exciting if it was just on the feet, but obviously that's not going to happen. And Chimaev is going to go try and get the takedown as quick as possible. And if he gets this win, I mean, he establishes himself in this division. He's currently unproven because he hasn't fought a real 185er. But I don't know. I'm taking Chimaev. No one has beaten him. And until he gets beaten, I'm taking him because his wrestling is what gets him the win. And he does gas out. So if he doesn't get the win early against Whitaker, Whitaker's not gassing out. And Whitaker could get stronger later on in the fight. If this goes past 3 rounds, then I think Whitaker wins. And Whitaker might win by stoppage even. But if it's before 3 rounds, I don't think or I guess it's not a 5-round fight, is it?
I was going to say, had they announced if it's a 3-round or a 5-round? While you do that research, I can give my bit real quick. Yeah,
I'll just say I feel like it should be a 5-rounder. But
I don't know why you would make that fight and not make it a 5-round fight. Overall, thinking back on that Kamaru fight that Khamzat had, I think if that was 5 rounds, you would probably see Khamzat maybe have lost that one. I don't know. Like, I've rewatched that fight a million times, and still, like, I'm just like, if this went a couple more, like, it could have been way different.
By the way, currently it says that it's the main event, so it will be 5 rounds.
Perfect. But thinking back to that Kamaru fight, I know Kamaru stepped in on short notice. I know it was on his home ground, and he's fighting on his home ground again in his home turf, and he's in his comfortable environment, and this is where he's training. But like, Bobby Knuckles is a different animal. You know what I mean? And he has a full camp, and he just won, and he needs this to like solidify his title shot and get back to where he was. Like, this is the prime fight you would want as Khamzat Chimaev and as Robert Whittaker. Like, this is a perfect scheduled bout. Like, I'm just so like, this is why, to me, I think it's potential fight of the year candidate. I know, obviously, we got 300 in a couple weeks. I'm not downsizing that in any way, shape, or form, but this is a big one, and it's worth the wait. And I'm telling you, once we get to there and the wait's over, it will not disappoint. And I can't wait. Anything else from you?
Yeah. As long as the fight isn't over in 1 round because Chimaev takes him down and keeps him down, I'll be happy.
Yeah, Bobby's going to be working wrestling for a while for the next couple months.
Usman had like a 97% takedown D before fighting Chimaev. And he took him down so easily.
But it wasn't normal Kamaru. You know what I mean? Like, I get like the intangibles, and he's always constantly training, and he's really good. But you got to factor in, like, Khamzat is in UAE training 100% every day. Obviously, with the health issues, it's different this time. So he's kind of more questionable this time, which is why I'm like, why is he actually the heavy favorite? But man, like, Robert Whittaker is really going to test his hands. And if he knocks out Robert Whittaker, you're just not going to want to show up to the pod the next day. I'm telling you now. I'm going to talk so much like smack if he actually knocks him out.
You're saying Robert Whittaker is going to win.
I think I would pick Robert Whittaker right now. From everything that's happened in the year, how could you not? Robert Whittaker as an underdog, you know what I mean? Like, that just doesn't sound like, that's just weird to say. I don't know. I'm obviously going to wait to make my official pick till the fight comes. I'm not going to be biased and just choose Khamzat outright. We'll have to pay attention to the camps and, you know, read in between the lines and the research we always do behind the scenes. But nonetheless, I could talk about this one for an hour. We'll say right now, recording this on April 1st, April Fools. We were just joking about the Jailton Almeida Volkov fight. No, we actually weren't. But both camps, now it's going to be Volkov and Sergey Pavlovich. Completely confusing situation here. Both camps didn't think this was going to happen. Both camps, I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong, don't even have a contract yet from each side. So it's like, 1, why would we schedule this? 2, why is Jailton Almeida still fighting on 302 and not 301 in Brazil? And 3, why did we decide to just throw a wrench at things? You know what I mean? It was just so random. Like, they obviously just change fights all the time. They don't have to give reasoning. But this one was just very confusing. And Doc, if you could make sense of it, please let me know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I don't know. I will say that I was calling for Pavlovich to get back in the ring. So I am excited to hopefully see him. I mean, I don't know if this fight is fully confirmed. If the contract isn't signed, then we can't say that this is going to happen. But it is strange. I think that in general, Volkov and Pavlovich don't want to fight each other. I mean, two fighters from Russia, I'm sure that they're actually friends. And not too much to gain for Pavlovich here, in my opinion. Volkov, really great striker, super tall. Pavlovich, super powerful. He's had the time off after getting knocked out by Tom Aspinall. But yeah, I don't really like this matchup in general. Like, it's good to see 2 big guys fighting. I'm sure that are good strikers, so hoping for a knockout, but it doesn't excite me that much.
It excites me. 1, Volkov, crazy back tattoo. I think he has the best tattoo in all of the UFC. I got to say that first and foremost. It's just stylistically, like, I get Sergey as the reach, even though Volkov's way taller than he is. So I think like in a freak-like nature, this matchup makes sense stylistically when you think about height and reach. You know what I mean? It just evens out to a degree. But Pavlovich is like a way more experienced boxer, in my opinion. And Volkov like has more fights under his belt. I could be wrong about that, but I don't know. This one excites me. When's the last time we got two Russians fighting against each other, ready to go at it? Nonetheless, two Russians of this caliber, and nonetheless, two Russians fighting for another title shot. Like, it's like these storylines just keep coming into the mix. You know what I mean? It's like, this is everything we signed up for.
When you talk about two Russians fighting, as soon as you said that, I started thinking about Ikram Aliskerov against Khamzat Chimaev.
Yeah.
And we saw how that ended. So
it comes out flatlined.
Yeah, we'll see. If there is a knockout, it's going to be a murder in the ring, and you better hope Chris Taglioni is not
He's not that rough. Herb, get in there, man. We need you, buddy.
Yeah, get Herb Bean, not Chris.
Yeah, but that's
we'll see. Much... Hopefully it gets like solidified, so we actually have something to look forward to. And then in terms of who Jalton's going to fight, I don't know. I think he's coming back really fast after getting hammer fists just rained down on his face.
Enough.
So
I don't know, but if you're coming back that fast as Jalton Almeida, why wouldn't you want to fight in Brazil? Like at 301, it's just such a
matchmaking,
such a confusing situation for me.
Yep, I agree.
We can talk about more bad matchmaking in May 11th with Derek Lewis and Cemento, but we're not going to go that deep. Nonetheless, we got one more fight night, one more sleep before Christmas, as I like to call it. Brendan Allen will be fighting Chris Curtis next weekend. We'll be covering that card, and then it's the week of 300, baby. Doc, how we feeling for it?
This next week's card, not ideal. The week or UFC 300 after that, can't wait. That's all I can say.
Girl Norma Dumont fighting on that card next weekend, though.
Yeah, in the prelims, she should be in the main card.
Higher.
I think.
Yeah, a lot higher than that.
But Ignacio Bahamondes, his throwback to his highlight reel knockout of Roosevelt Roberts, just head kick to the face of a 6'6" guy.
Dude, you hate Roosevelt Roberts.
Yeah, he's trash. Get him out.
He is.
Anyway, I can finish off this segment. This is 3 in a row for me. So not
one to brag about.
Not as great of a win as last week, but I will do my 30 seconds of fame and shout out Nate the Train Landwehr. What a guy. He was getting pieced up by Emmers. I got worried, but Nate the Train came out of nowhere and dropped a bomb on Jamal Emmers. Man. And with his fiery interviews, I'm getting chills just talking about it right now. But Nate the Train, great for the UFC. Super exciting fighter, super loud fighter. And hey, glad to see him in the win column. And then in my last 5 seconds, calling Lupe Godinez losing. It happened exactly how I thought it was going to happen. Brought it down, did some takedowns, and Lupe Godinez could do nothing against a very aged Jandiroba. I am so glad that I picked this. So that's it.
I would say, how's your main card? But we on the same. Nonetheless, you'll have to wait for the picks next weekend. Artie, we miss you. We'll see if Artie's here next week, the week after. He'll be MMIA for a bit. Maybe he won't. Maybe he will. I don't know. Come back and find out. Nonetheless, this has been the Ring Boys. Ringside Nation, we do it for you. By the common man, for the common man. And peace.
Take care.